I took the wrong room. And I swear, the moment the door clicked behind me, the air felt different, like I had just stepped into someone else's secret. It was supposed to be a harmless weekend away. A hotel near the beach. A corporate retreat with forgettable workshops and watered-down wine. I wasn't there for networking. I wanted space. Silence. Maybe a sunburn to remind me I was still alive. But that night everything changed. I'd left the lounge early, half drunk on cheap Chardonnay and small talk. My heels clicked down the hallway in rhythm with the distant ocean wind. The keycard slipped into the door, room 618 or so I thought. The green light blinked. The lock released. I stepped in. It was dim inside. Curtains drawn. The scent of cologne in the air, warm and unfamiliar. A little spicy, a little reckless. Not mine. I froze. But I didn't leave. I should have. But the room was quiet, candlelit, and pulsing with some energy I couldn't name. I told myself maybe housekeeping had left a scent or someone had just left. I wandered in, half curious, half tipsy. Then I saw the suit jacket. Not mine. Draped across the chair like a man had just stepped out of it. There was music playing faintly from the bathroom. Some low jazzy tune that didn't belong in a hotel. And just as I turned to leave, the bathroom door opened. He stood there, shirtless, towel low on his hips, dripping from the shower. His eyes met mine. Forgot how to breathe. Not because he was beautiful, though he was, but because he didn't look surprised. He looked at me like he was expecting me. "You made it," he said. Voice low. Even. My mouth opened but no sound came out. My brain scrambled for excuses, explanations, anything that made sense. This isn't. I got the wrong. He stepped forward. Just one slow, deliberate step. Close enough for me to feel the heat from his skin. To see the drops of water sliding down his chest. "Stay," he whispered. Not a question. A dare. And I did. God help me, I did. I should have run. My heart was pounding so loud it felt like it would shake the walls. But something about the way he stood there, calm, still, watching me like I was part of a plan he'd rehearsed 1,000 times, made my body forget every rule I'd ever written for myself. I wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to want me to stay. And yet, I didn't move. He walked past me slowly, leaving a trail of warmth in the air between us. I could feel his presence on my skin like a current. He picked up a glass from the nightstand, wine red, untouched, and handed it to me without a word. My fingers brushed his. Electric. "I was starting to think you weren't coming," he said, like he was continuing a conversation I hadn't known we were having. I opened my mouth to explain, to say I wasn't who he thought I was, that I'd simply walked into the wrong room. But the words tangled up in my throat, because some part of me didn't want to ruin the illusion. "I almost didn't," I said, barely recognizing my own voice. He smiled. Just slightly. A knowing curve of the mouth that made my stomach tighten. There was something dangerous about him, not in the obvious sense, not the kind of danger that makes you want to run. No. He was the kind that made you want to stay just a second too long. The kind that made you lean in even as the world tilted. He walked around me slowly, deliberately, like I was something to be studied. I could feel his eyes tracing the bare skin above my collarbone, the line of my dress clinging to my back. And when he stopped behind me, just inches away, the silence between us cracked open. "I've imagined this," he said, voice close to my ear. "You. Here." My breath hitched. My glass trembled slightly in my hand. "I don't even know your name," I whispered, still not turning around. "You will," he said. His fingers brushed the zipper of my dress. Not pulling it, not even tugging, just a faint, curious touch. Like he was asking a question without words. My body answered before I could. I turned slowly, facing him. And in that moment, the air between us grew thick with everything unspoken. Curiosity, attraction, risk. So many reasons to walk away. But I didn't. And neither did he. It wasn't just the way he stood there, waiting. It was the way his eyes never left mine. Even when the silence stretched long enough to feel like a decision. Every nerve in my body was awake. He didn't touch me again. Not yet. He just watched me like he knew exactly what I needed. Not words, not answers, just permission to fall out of control. "Sit with me," he said finally. We moved to the window where the city lights flickered far below. He poured me another glass. I barely sipped it. My thoughts were too loud. my pulse louder. I kept telling myself to confess, to say it was all a mistake, that I wasn't whoever he thought I was. But every time I opened my mouth, something about his presence made me forget the urgency. It wasn't just chemistry. It was something deeper. He didn't treat me like a stranger. He looked at me like I was already a memory. I don't do this, I said quietly, more to myself than to him. Do what? This. Stay. With someone I don't know. His hand brushed mine barely, and yet my whole body felt the ripple. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, eyes low. You're not here because of me, he said. You're here because of what you want. Maybe you didn't expect it to find you like this, but it did. So don't lie to yourself now. I swallowed hard. He was right, and it terrified me. Because I didn't come to that hotel to meet someone. I came to get away. But maybe. Part of me had been looking for a reason to surrender. To lose control just once with someone who wouldn't ask questions. And now here he was. The wrong room. The right moment. We sat in silence for a while. The music still played softly. A lazy saxophone winding through the air like it knew what we weren't saying. Then he asked, "What are you thinking right now?" I hesitated. I wasn't sure how to say it. How to tell a stranger that my entire body was aching with awareness. That the air between us felt like a thread pulled tight. That I wanted to move closer, not because it made sense, but because something deep inside me was begging for it. So instead I said, "If I let this happen, I don't think I'll be able to forget it." He turned his head toward me slowly. And that look, God, that look. Good, he said. Then let it matter. His hand lifted, hovering near my face, not touching, just waiting. Like he wanted me to close the distance. And I did. Not all the way. Just enough for our breath to mingle, for our lips to almost touch. That space, that unbearable pulsing inch between us, was more intimate than any kiss. And that's when we heard the knock on the door. Firm. 2 taps. We both froze. A woman's voice muffled. "Hey, are you ready?" He closed his eyes. And everything changed. That knock shattered the illusion. The spell we'd been under, that slow, smoldering descent into something reckless and beautiful, cracked open like glass under pressure. I pulled back instinctively, the heat between us evaporating in an instant, replaced by something colder, sharper. Reality. He didn't move right away. Just sat there, eyes still closed, like he was trying to hold on to whatever moment we had before it slipped through his fingers. Another knock. Lighter this time, followed by the same voice. "Hey, are you in there?" My stomach dropped. He opened his eyes slowly, deliberately, and looked at me. And I swear there was regret in his face. Not guilt. Not panic. Just a quiet, devastating recognition that whatever we were building wasn't just ours anymore. "I didn't expect her tonight," he said softly. Her. The word hit like ice against my skin. I stood up, suddenly aware of everything. How warm my cheeks were, how fast my heart was still beating, how close I'd come to losing myself in a stranger's arms. "Who is she?" I asked, even though I didn't want to know. He didn't lie. Someone I shouldn't be seeing. But I do. I stared at him. The man who had looked at me like I was the only person in the world just minutes ago. Now tethered to someone else. A woman who knew his room number. A woman who knocked like she'd done it before. I felt the burn of jealousy, sharp, irrational, but undeniable. And beneath it, something worse. The twisted thrill of still wanting him. "I should go," I said, voice unsteady. But before I could reach the door, he stood up. Crossed the space between us in 2 long strides. He didn't touch me, not this time. He just stood there, inches away. His energy still burning like a fire I hadn't put out. "I meant what I said," he whispered. "You're here because you want something. And I'm not pretending I'm clean. I'm not. But you felt it too. Didn't you?" I hated how right he was. There was something in the way he looked at me, not just hunger but recognition. Like he saw the shadow in me I'd never admitted to anyone. The part that wanted danger. The part that wanted to be wanted. The knock came again, softer. Almost uncertain. "I can tell her to go," he said, voice low. My eyes snapped to his. "And then what? You'll be mine?" He didn't answer. And that silence said everything. He wasn't offering a promise. Just a moment. One moment. I stepped back. My hand brushed the door handle. "I think I took the wrong room," I said quietly. "But maybe I was supposed to." And then just before I turned the knob, he said something that stopped me cold. "You don't have to leave. You could stay. She doesn't have to matter tonight." My hand froze. The door still closed. His body still inches from mine. And in that tiny impossible pause, I had to decide what kind of woman I really was. I didn't open the door. I stood there, hand on the knob, every part of me screaming for clarity, for a decision, for a truth I could hold. But clarity doesn't always come in clean lines. Sometimes it comes wrapped in heat and guilt and the maddening need to feel something real. And he was still behind me. Close enough that I could feel the energy pouring off him, but far enough that I'd have to be the one to close the space. "I should go," I whispered again, though my hand had already fallen from the door. His voice came softer this time. "But you don't want to." I turned to face him. His jaw was tense now. His eyes darker, like even he knew we'd crossed into a space we weren't supposed to find. A secret carved in a hotel room between two people who were never supposed to meet. "She's still out there," I said. "Waiting." He nodded slowly. "And I'm in here. With you." It was the way he said it, not like a defense, not like an excuse, but like a confession. Something shifted in the air again, that magnetic pull tugging me back into his orbit. And maybe I hated myself for it, but I didn't step away. I leaned in. "You could have told her to come in," I said, not even sure why I said it. His eyes locked on mine. "But she's not the one I want looking at me like you're looking at me right now." And that's when I kissed him. I don't even remember moving. Just that our mouths met like it was inevitable. There was no soft build-up, no cautious test. It was instant. Fierce. Breathless. Like we'd both been holding back something neither of us had words for. His hands found my waist, but there was restraint in his grip. Like he was fighting himself, even as his lips begged me not to stop. I didn't know who I was in that moment. All I knew was that I'd never been kissed like that, with hunger and apology tangled together, with a kind of reverence that made my knees weak. It wasn't just about desire. It was about need. A knock came again, louder this time, irritated. We froze. Our lips parted, breath mingling. I could hear the woman's voice again, muffled but sharp now. "Seriously? Are you ghosting me right now?" He pulled away just slightly, his forehead resting against mine. "She won't stay," he whispered. "She never does." I wanted to ask why he kept letting her come back. But I didn't, because I already knew the answer. We all let ghosts in when we're lonely. "Neither will I said, and he flinched barely, like that truth stung more than it should have. He stepped back. His chest rose and fell with something like regret. And I knew then that this wasn't just physical for him. There was something deeper under the surface. Something broken. "Stay anyway," he said. "Just for tonight." I didn't respond. Not with words. I took his hand. And this time, I didn't look back at the door. We didn't speak for a while after that. The door stayed closed. Her voice eventually faded. The sound of her heels retreating down the hall, sharp, clipped, angry. But her presence lingered like smoke in the room. A reminder that this moment was stolen. Borrowed. Burning on borrowed time. But still, I didn't let go of his hand. He led me slowly to the bed, not with urgency but with gravity. Like he was afraid to move too fast, afraid the spell might break if we weren't careful. The moment was thick with everything we weren't saying. The guilt, the confusion, the heat simmering just beneath the surface. He sat on the edge of the bed. I stood between his knees, and for a long time we just looked at each other. His hands on my thighs, my fingers threading through his damp hair. No rush, no agenda. Just presence. I studied his face in the low light, the tension in his jaw, the question behind his eyes. He wasn't sure if I'd stay, and maybe I wasn't either. But I stayed anyway. He kissed the inside of my wrist like it was sacred, slow, reverent. And somehow that simple touch made my breath catch more than anything else had. His lips moved along the curve of my arm, my shoulder, my neck. Not fast, not demanding. Like he was memorizing me piece by piece. I could feel every breath, every pause. My body didn't just react, it surrendered. Slowly, fully, as if he'd unlocked something I didn't know I was guarding. His touch wasn't greedy. It was exploratory, curious, careful, like he was learning the language of my skin with his fingertips, waiting for it to whisper secrets to him. And when I exhaled, finally, it felt like I'd been holding my breath for years. There was no music now, just the sound of breath, fabric, the distant hum of city lights through the window, the rhythm of silence. "Tell me something true," I whispered, unsure why. He opened his eyes, still half lost in the moment. "I've never felt anything like this," he said. "It's not just you. It's what you woke up in me." I swallowed hard. My heart stuttered, because that's what it felt like, being woken up. As if some part of me that had been asleep, untouched, unexplored, was suddenly alive. Electric. His hand slid along my back, pulling me closer. Skin to skin, heartbeat to heartbeat. And just before everything else disappeared, he murmured something against my ear that changed everything. "I dreamed about you last week." I froze. "What?" He pulled back just slightly. "You don't believe me, do you?" "I don't even know you," I said, barely breathing. He smiled, soft and strange. "Doesn't mean I didn't find you before you found me." The room tilted. Something about his voice, the certainty, the honesty, made me shiver. This wasn't just about lust. It wasn't even about timing. It was something deeper. Something I didn't understand yet. But I wanted to. And in that moment, nothing else mattered. The room was dark now, except for the soft city glow filtering through the curtains. But even in the dim light, I could see it, the shift in his eyes. Like something had just slipped out that he hadn't meant to say. "You dreamed about me?" I asked again, slower this time, testing the weight of it. He didn't flinch. He didn't smile. "I didn't know it was you," he said. "But it was this. This feeling. This heat. The way you look at me like you already know what I'm thinking. Like you've already done everything I'm still too scared to ask for." A breath hitched in my throat. "Ask," I whispered. His gaze sharpened. "Are you sure?" I nodded. He looked at me for a long, heavy moment. Then he reached for something on the nightstand. A small black notebook. He handed it to me. "It's stupid," he muttered, suddenly unsure of himself. "Just fragments. Stuff I write when I can't sleep." I opened it. Inside, pages of half-thoughts, dreams, flashes of want and memory. Some were poetic. Some raw. Some too intimate to be for anyone but himself. But what caught my breath was a sketch. Faint pencil lines of a woman standing in front of a window backlit by moonlight. Her dress slipping down one shoulder. She looked like me. "I drew that a month ago," he said quietly. "Before I ever saw you." The room spun just slightly. It should have felt creepy. But it didn't. It felt like being seen in a way I hadn't even seen myself yet. Like he'd pulled me out of some dream I didn't know we shared. And then I flipped to a page with a single line scribbled across the center in sharp, impatient ink. "I want someone to ruin me. Not with touch, but with truth." I looked up at him. His face was bare now. Vulnerable. No longer the smirking stranger in a towel. Just a man who had handed over a secret he never thought anyone would read. "You didn't just dream about me," I said. "You created me." He exhaled like that admission had been waiting for years. I closed the notebook and moved closer, placing it gently on the nightstand. "Then let me be your truth," I whispered. He reached for me again, slower this time, like reverence, not hunger. His hands cupped my face. My body pressed into his. And when our lips met again, it wasn't rushed or desperate. It was quiet. It was everything. Time unraveled. The bed creaked. The night deepened. Our breaths tangled in ways that felt older than us. And somewhere between the kiss and the sigh that followed it, I realized something terrifying. I didn't want to leave. Not just the room. Not him. Not this. But I had to. Because some dreams aren't meant to last longer than the night. I didn't sleep. Not really. We drifted in and out of each other, not just with touch but in silence, in breath, in moments where the world outside the room no longer existed. Time had dissolved. There was only the sound of his heartbeat behind me, his hand on my waist, the slow rhythm of a connection that felt both brand new and painfully ancient. We never turned on the lights. Maybe we both knew that once we saw each other in daylight, the magic would break. But dawn came anyway. I watched it through the window, wrapped in nothing but the sheet and the weight of everything we hadn't said. He was still asleep, arm draped across the empty half of the bed where I used to be just hours ago. And for a while I let myself imagine what it would feel like to stay. To let morning be the beginning instead of the end. To see what his smile looked like in sunlight. To ask him what he did when he wasn't writing dreams into notebooks. To kiss him when we weren't pretending we were just a mistake in motion. But I didn't. Because it wasn't love. It was something stranger. Rare. A crack in the fabric of routine. A collision of two people who had no business meeting but did. And couldn't unfeel it once they had. So I stood. I dressed in the same clothes I came in with, though they didn't fit the same. My skin remembered too much. My breath still carried the weight of his name, even though I'd never asked for it. I left the notebook, but I tore out one page, the one with the sketch. And I wrote on the back just 4 words. You weren't dreaming alone. I placed it on his pillow, and then I walked out. No goodbye. No number. No promises. Just one last glance at the door I never meant to open, but would never forget. That was a year ago. Sometimes I wonder if he ever looked for me. If he kept the note. If he drew anyone else after me. Sometimes I wonder if he knew that night saved me. Not because it turned into something lasting, but because it reminded me I could still feel something real. So no, I don't regret it. I took the wrong room. And he followed. But maybe, just maybe, it was exactly the door I was meant to walk through.